Hey everyone, and welcome to my new YouTube channel, Darth Carnivore. My name is Charlie, and this is the story of my journey into a healthy carnivore lifestyle. For me, this journey wasn't a straight line. 15 years ago, I had significant success with a ketogenic diet, losing 150 pounds in a year, going from 350 down to 200, and then maintaining that for almost 2 years after that, before regaining all of that weight back plus an additional 60 pounds over the next 10 years. During this decade of regain, I wasn't ever exposed to the concept of processed food addiction, so I thought I could moderate and then out exercise things like french fries, chips, breads, popcorn, and pasta. And for almost 2 years, I did that, but with a lot of willpower. Yet, in spite of having decent knowledge of how carbs, especially processed carbs, keep insulin high, promoting fat gain as well as energy spikes and crashes, among other issues, knowing still wasn't enough. I more than doubled my weight during this decade and felt like a failure. It was demoralizing. Thought I blew my only shot at maintaining good health. As my health deteriorated during this decade from 2013 to 2022, the quality of my life was slowly shrinking in humiliating ways every year. To say that I suffered from low energy would be an understatement. As I look back on my pictures during this decade, I noticed that more and more of my waking hours were spent in a chair, couch, or bed over time. Imagine starting your mornings at only 30% battery with ankle weights and wind blowing against you as you try to navigate forward throughout your day. It required a lot of willpower on a daily basis just to do basic tasks like feeding or changing my daughter or cleaning the house. Rather than address my physical inability to mow my own yard, I hired someone else to do it while rationalizing that it would help free my schedule to do other things. In addition to low energy, I was also deeply insecure about how obese I was becoming. To make myself feel smaller, I would wear oversized hoodies and sweatpants and basketball shorts. I would avoid going out in public by explaining to my friends that it's because I'm an introvert or that I had other plans. I would avoid going to restaurants that only had booths because I knew I couldn't squeeze in to sit down. And of course, one way I distracted myself from these feelings of deep insecurity and low energy was to eat hyper palatable processed foods. In November of 2021, I received my formal diagnosis of type 2 diabetes with an A1C of 6.8% and a prescription for metformin on top of my two medicines for hypertension. But even that wasn't my rock bottom moment. That came a few months later in May of 2022 when sitting in my bed when trying to put on my socks and shoes left me gasping for air and in a puddle of sweat as though I had just run a marathon. I was tired of trying to accommodate my deteriorating health. I vowed to myself that morning that I wasn't going to continue letting life punch me in the face anymore and pretend like it never happened. That was my sock bottom moment when I knew I had to change. This time, I went back to keto in June of 2022, but with an important new rule: no sabotage meals. To help get me through the first 90 days, I used an injectable medication at low doses called Trulicity. I relied on net carb keto versions of highly processed foods like breads, tortillas, chips, and ice creams. Compared to the sad versions of the same foods I was eating just before, these less bad food swaps were sufficient enough to enable a significant amount of weight loss. My second attempt at keto without sabotage meals had an immediate effect on my energy levels, and my exercise journey was a reflection of that. When I restarted, my only forms of physical activity were limited to basic house chores because that's all the energy I had at the time. As I gained more energy from consistently being in nutritional ketosis, it progressed to walking my dog Maya and then later eventually joining a gym. Basically, I had extra energy left over to spend and I wanted to be productive with it. This time, exercising wasn't a chore or punishment or atonement for sabotage meals. It was a natural and enjoyable result of feeling better, feeling more alive, feeling freer with my body. My commitment was tested later in September of 2022, so just 3 months later, when I experienced a suspected kidney stone. That uncomfortable, painful night gave me the confidence to quit not just Diet Mountain Dew, which was the last thing I drank preceding this event, but all diet sodas for good. I never thought I could quit diet sodas, but this was my first attempt at cutting out sweet tasting things. From June of 2022 to June of 2023, my year of doing net carb keto, I was able to lose an incredible 130 pounds without a single weight loss stall. So you might be wondering, why would I change anything? Well, a few things came together over time that made me want to explore the next step. First, it was pure curiosity. If I could do net carb keto without sabotage meals and without diet sodas, maybe some version of the carnivore diet was the next logical progression. Second, I started listening to various personal stories of healing on carnivore, not only in terms of losing a lot of weight, but also improving or resolving other conditions like autoimmune, digestion, and mental health disorders. Third, I started learning about how plants have evolved sophisticated defenses against being any creature's version of a healthy superfood, which made me question my entire childhood upbringing raised on the belief that they were only beneficial in all contexts. Fourth, I learned about carbohydrate addiction, which suggests that the path to healing is through abstinence rather than moderation mindsets. I realized that the processed foods that always got me into trouble the first time I did keto, like French fries, breads, and chips, were the ones I physically couldn't stop eating once I had my first bite. Fifth, I started to learn about the importance of fasting insulin levels. My first fasting insulin result on keto was almost 16, meaning it was taking a lot of insulin to keep my blood glucose within a normal range, and this was not compatible with my goal of using fat for fuel. All of these discoveries, from the scientific and personal to the behavioral, gave me the conviction to cut out everything but meat, eggs, and salt. One challenge I had to navigate was my cultural upbringing. My Filipino heritage is very rice-centric with vegetables and little meat. So I wasn't really equipped to cook much in the way of a carnivore diet. But thanks to various YouTube channels, I learned how to cook the meats like steak and brisket, so I wasn't just eating ground beef, which is what I did first starting out. The results in switching to carnivore in June of 2023 went far beyond what I had ever imagined. The weight loss on the scale was just a fraction of the story. My energy levels on keto were good, but vastly increased on carnivore once my body became more fat adapted. To this day, I never thought this level of consistent energy throughout each day was possible without resorting to any sort of caffeine or energy drinks. My other victories were in reclaiming my metabolic health. My doctor and I worked to reduce and then deprescribe the metformin and blood pressure pills he had put me on. My type 2 diabetes is now in remission with an A1C that's consistently between 5.3 and 5.5. And I completely reversed my obstructive sleep apnea. I'm off all medications now. The numbers don't lie either. My fasting insulin, which was a red flag at almost 16, is now consistently between 1.5 and 4.5. My HSCRP, a measure of chronic inflammation in the body, went from around 4 down to undetectable levels. And my testosterone, which was barely above 300 about 12 years ago, is now somewhere over 1500. And just to be clear, I've never had any TRT or HRT. But beyond the numbers and the physical healing, the greatest victory has been over my mind. The absence of food noise and cravings has been one of the biggest benefits. I can walk by a bakery and not feel tempted. I can go to a movie theater and not want any popcorn or soda. I used to see a lot of bad movies just to binge on tubs of popcorn with fake butter. I realized that my reward for eating well on carnivore is the laser focus and the stable, consistent energy levels it provides afterwards, not some distant sabotage meal like it was the first time doing keto 15 years ago. And all of this was happening while my body was shedding the fat. From an initial body weight of at least 410 pounds, I've lost and sustained 185 pounds while gaining and continuing to gain lean muscle mass. My wife and daughter now have the best version of me. It's not about spending my life on a chair, a couch, or in bed. It's about moving freely with strength, energy, purpose, and vitality. I went from uncomfortably wearing 5X t-shirts and size 48 waist pants to comfortably wearing medium t-shirts and size 32 waist pants. I no longer need a seatbelt extender for any airplane. As I've lost body fat, the quality of my life has increased. I've aged in reverse. I don't know how many years carnivore has added to my life, but I do know is that it has added life to my years. If you want to follow along with my journey, learn about what I eat, and see more of my health transformation and labs, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you.
I find your lack of ketosis disturbing.